The x-rays show that your puppy swallowed a penny.
Sparky, is that serious, Doctor?
No, but you can get serious savings at BJ's Gas. You can buy a gallon with that very penny once it reappears.
Ew.
I see another penny.
Keep looking.
You can get gas as low as 1 cent per gallon during BJ's Wholesale Club's gas event. For each Fuel Saver item you buy, you'll save 10 cents per gallon on your next fill-up at BJ's Gas within 30 days of purchase. BJ's. Absurdly simple savings. $99 or 40-gallon maximum, whichever comes first. Go to bjs.com/gas for offer terms and a list of participating items. Please don't feed pennies to dogs.
Hey, pull up a chair. It's Hacks on Tap with David Axelrod, Robert Gibbs, and Mike Murphy.
Mr. President, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Why aren't you at the Fox News debate tonight in Milwaukee?
Well, you know, a lot of people have been asking me that, and many people said you shouldn't do them, but you see the polls have come out, and I'm leading by 50 and 60 points. And, you know, some of them are at 1 and 0 and 2. And I'm saying, do I sit there for an hour or 2 hours, whatever it's going to be, and get harassed by people that shouldn't even be running for president? Should I be doing that? And a network that isn't particularly friendly to me.
There you have it, Mike Murphy, the winner of last night's Republican debate, in my view. Donald J. Trump sitting with his designated interviewer, Tucker Carlson, while 8 other candidates appeared in Milwaukee trying to punch their way into a race that Trump is leading, not by 50 and 60. By the way, by the end of that answer, he was leading by 70.
Ba-da-boom.
No, he was. No, I'm serious. He
Really?
Said,
There's an Insto poll? I didn't see
later
it.
in the answer, he said 70, just like he said during the interview that the crowd.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
The crowd on January 6th was the biggest crowd ever, bigger than 1 million people. Well, anyway, Trump is Trump.
Yeah, no. He's leading by 118, I hear.
Yes, because they let him keep going. It'll be up by 120 by the time we get to lunch.
Trump is Trump and Gibbs is Gibbs. Gibbs, good to see you, brother.
Good morning, Axe.
I'm bleary-eyed, guys, but eager to hear what you guys thought.
Well, I'll be contrarian as usual, because this conventional view is, Trump had a great night.
Yeah, you were contrarian when you said Trump would show up, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, no, I didn't say that. I said I think there's a shot he will. But anyway, I don't think Trump won last night. I thought it was kind of weird that nobody talked about him for an hour. Now, you can say that was all fear and everything, and then when they finally did talk about him, it was the coward Olympics. I mean, you have to look at this thing. Yeah, the moderators were terrible. I mean, let me pound on the Fox for a minute.
Just a sec. Buckle up, Axe. Murphy's got a few things on his chest today.
No, I'm here to help. I'm here to help, Mike.
Yeah, lean back and tell us all about it.
Okay, well, let me just say, we all know, or admit it, that if somehow Biden was there at a podium, he would have had a terrible night too. He would have looked like a doddering old guy.
All right,
and
that's punched your later. Card. Now go on with your commentary.
All right. I can tell I'm going to get heckled here by the radio DNC for the entire. First of all, shame on Fox and shame on all of them for doing these gladiator debates with the big audience of Yahoo screaming all the time. I mean, our informed listeners ought to go back and Google the old Jack Kennedy, Dick Nixon debates or something where it was 2 guys in the studio, which is how it ought to be. A lot more pressure on them to perform than this carnival.
Although you should go on YouTube and watch the Lincoln Douglas debates. They had crowds.
Yeah, no, that's true. But the crowds were more polite then. Anyway, I've seen the tape. So, but anyway, we're all a little punchy here. My point was, Nikki Haley got in the race last night, and there's plenty of time. She broke through a little, and there's going to be, and I'm not her biggest fan, but I thought she had the best performance, and it gave her an opening to be somebody. So she's going to have money flowing from people who, were with DeSantis, and I think also might have been with Scott, who had a terrible night, did nothing to take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah.
I also got to give Pence some credit. He made the best and strongest case and forced the rest of them to fall in behind him on explaining what he did on January 6th. Now, he's in such a hole in the primary, I don't know if it could dig out, but if I were managing Pence, I couldn't have asked for anything more from my candidate than Pence gave last night. And finally, just to wrap up on the Fox thing beyond the howling crowd, no follow-ups, kitten paws around Trump, just shameful. That the whole thing was barely journalism from their side.
All right, now take a rest. Gibbs, what did you think?
Oh, I'm fine.
We're going to go back to giving him his oxygen.
Passion, you guys.
to pick up on your last point, I mean, I chuckled about an hour in as Fox like tiptoes into, we're going to take the next 30 seconds to talk a little bit about indictments before returning to our regularly scheduled debate. They clearly wanted zero to do with Donald Trump. I'm not surprised that many of the candidates didn't want to, or that he wasn't a big subject of they certainly got into it. I don't know that you.
Well, they know their audience, Gibbs.
I was going to say, if you look at the polling, they're not going to attack a guy who's got a high fave in a Republican primary. They're eventually going to have to get to it.
On the audience thing, I'll get back to you in a second, but
yep.
Everybody went nuts and I understand all the controversy when CNN had its town hall meeting with Trump about the audience. Okay, but last night you saw it again. You draw a representative Republican audience.
Right.
And that's what you get. You get half a room full of Trump people going nuts. Of course, there were actually Trumps in the audience going nuts as well. But the Fox obviously knew what the candidates did, and I'm not excusing it at all. I'll talk more about this in a second. But it's Trump's world, and they're living in it.
But under that formula, we could do a New Hampshire debate now with Democrats and independents, with Joe Biden and nutcase Robert Kennedy Jr., and 35% of them would be very lukewarm on Biden, and there'd be some yelling and howling on vaccine stuff, too. So I just, do we need to run these things like the Price is Right? That's my point.
Come on down, Murphy. You're the next contestant. I agree with you that I think Haley had a good night. I think she was animated. I think she was engaged. I think Ramaswamy found himself.
Speaking of game show hosts.
Yeah. I think a lot of people read their polling and realized that he has been on the move upwards. And so he caught all the arrows. And I think if you add in particularly his very weird interview around January 6th and 9/11, it's pretty clear that, and Ax, this, you can perform a bit off Broadway in these presidential races and catch some grassroots fire. But then people start asking you hard questions.
Yeah.
And actually, you have to take those little cute 18 to 30 second sound bites, and people get to follow up a little bit, press you as Nikki did.
And my favorite story from an old ward committeeman in Chicago who I was interviewing him about a colleague who was going to run for a higher office. And he shook his head and said, "Big mistake." And I said, "Why is it a big mistake?" He said, "Because the higher you climb on a pole, the more they can see your ass." And I thought that was a bit of, homespun wisdom. And that's the way presidential races are like that more than any other, which is the better you do, the better you have to do. The better you do, the tougher the questions. The better you do, the greater the scrutiny. And he's going to discover that. But I'll tell you something. I think that we underestimate. I mean, he was obnoxious and he was rude, but I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but obnoxious and rude has been trading pretty high in elements of the Republican Party.
No, there's a niche for him, but he did himself no good. There was curiosity about him before, and by being the most irritating pipsqueak in the Republican Party, he became a useful foil for Pence, Christie at moments, and particularly Haley. So I think he was more catalytic, but he'll come out of this with a little interest. I just don't think he has a long half-life. I mean, it reminds me of a similar story to yours. There was a rich self-funder in a Midwestern state who was going to run, and a wise pol said, well, the problem is if he runs, the voters will meet him, and so I think there's a little of that going on with Vivek or the pipsqueak guy who irritated everybody.
Did Gibbs, you have any homespun Alabama stories to share?
I'm sure
you were run out of there at a young age.
I thought Pence was animated. To your point, Murphy, I don't know. He was animated, quite frankly, on stuff. I don't think, as you said, I don't think he's going to kind of put the genie back in the bottle in terms of how this Republican electorate views him, largely because of the way his boss has asked the Republican electorate to view him. I thought it's pretty clear that there were a number of people on the stage who don't both understand the format of quick, punchy answers and don't really understand how to use their larger message inside of those answers to create some sort of platform for themselves. So Burgum was a pretty great example of that.
Yeah,
He just
totally.
seemed to miss every moment. And so, I think actually you've done this too. We've all done this. I mean, you have 8 people up there who are probably going to give largely the same answer to every question on education, on tax cuts, on all of these different things. You've got to find that moment. I think a few people did find those moments, and a lot of people kind of shrank to the background. I will say, Ron DeSantis wasn't the front and center candidate that we thought he might be. I think that may have to do with what people perceive as his ongoing political health. I don't think he had a great night, but I also don't think he had a bad night. He got his talking points out. He got to make his point.
But that you said the right thing. He got his talking points out, and they felt like talking points.
Yes.
He delivered set pieces, but when it got into the ebb and flow, and he had to react to circumstances on the stage, you saw the DeSantis that we've seen in past debates, where he just kind of freezes up and clutches the platform and searches for the right thing to say. It happened on
My
the
favorite.
Yeah, he has no natural skill for this. I mean, I'm kind of with Gibbs. I don't think he did well. I don't think he did badly. I think he's going to watch more of his donors run to Haley now. But it was like, okay, let's go to the angry accountant who's been patiently waiting to complain about something. Then we go to DeSantis, heads on spikes on the border. And then he does his bit and on we go. So it was not the performance he needed to be the interesting thing out of the race. That was his.
Well, that's the issue. I think he did fine. He had an okay night. He needed a great night. He needed a commanding night to show that he deserved or warranted this designation that he's had since the fall of the presumptive, chief Trump opponent.
Yeah.
And he did not do what he needed to do. But my point on this other thing is, I think that people measure candidates in these moments, not whether they can deliver these set pieces. And if they do deliver set pieces, pieces that don't feel like set pieces, but they want to see how you react in the give and take. And so I agree with you guys that Haley really surprised. And I have to say this, though Doug Burgum, the highlight of Doug Burgum's campaign were the 2 weeks in which Mike Murphy was shining a great big light on him as a potential dark horse. Murphy also said in the last show that he thought that Haley had an opportunity to surprise on the high side, and she did.
Just like I planned it. Of course, I don't like Nikki Haley, but I'm being honest, she did fine, and I sure prefer her to Trump.
I thought it was striking, to your point on the sort of not having that natural ability. Notice on those hand-raising questions, he wasn't looking at the moderator and deciding whether to raise his hand. He was looking at the other people to say like, oh, wait a minute, you raised your hand? I better raise my hand too. And it was, to your point, I mean, it feels like, and we've seen this, candidates that get in this but don't really know why they're in it, don't really know what they have to say. And it was kind of painful to watch, particularly the one if Trump's convicted, will you support him as the nominee? His hand didn't go up immediately. He went and looked and said, oh gosh, so you're for that? Well, I don't want to be the lone person that has to defend not being for that.
Well, Murphy, one of the reasons that your candidate in 2000, John McCain, did well was, and you guys did this brilliantly, authenticity. He looked like a guy who was, you brought the media on your bus and they sat with him and he held forth between events, and then he did his events, and then he held forth again. And there was a sense that he was utterly transparent about what he was thinking and who he was. I think we did well in 2008 because there was something of the same feeling about Obama. I think authenticity is the coin of the realm in presidential campaigns. And that is the when you get to the core of it, I think that's DeSantis's problem. He looks like a politician searching for the clever political answer in every instance. And I think that will do him in.
Yeah, to various degrees, they all kind of did. No, but he was the quote bot, like DeSantis, question 5, 3x5, card 6.
Yes.
But let me go back to Burgum for a minute, because you're right. I was enthusiastic about his potential at the beginning, and I feel for him. You know, one of his peers called me up, another governor, about a month ago and said, you know, I saw Burgum. I really liked him. I talked to him, and I said, are you ready for this debate? Because it's going to be unlike anything you've ever been through. And Burgum was kind of disarmingly honest in some ways, said, well, I figure I'll just go in there and talk. You know, there was no plan.
Yeah.
No, nothing other than, you know, some staff guy, poor bastard, said, hey, you got to loosen up. Let's play a little basketball. I will say, if you were to bring in like an impartial robot, Burgum in some ways has the most impressive life story of any of the people on the stage last night. He's highly accomplished in a lot of different ways, but he was nervous, never been to something like that, and he was essentially running for governor of North Dakota again. But there were flashes where he was the one that seemed to have some regular authenticity.
Yeah, I agree.
There's great raw material there. I wish somebody who knew how this process worked got a hold of him 2 years ago. Because I think what Burgum could become could beat Joe Biden easily in a general election. The problem is he's got no grip in the primary, and he's not equipped to survive the process in a way that he'll get that shot, at least now. It's kind of a tragedy.
He came to kick ass, and then he blew out his Achilles the day before the debate. Gibbs, you remember we talked about this, the pickup game we played in Philly before that debate basketball game.
Yeah, just so everyone knows, the Barack Obama almost didn't become president because Axe was pissed off that he made a cut and basically was about to get around him in a pickup game. So, you know, the day of the debate, here's Axe, the chief strategist of the Obama campaign, basically throwing an elbow and a hand
karate
into the
chopping,
face,
yeah.
into the face of the candidate. It's like, hey, Axe, I really know defense is important to you, and you want to win this pickup game, but we got to have the boss, in one piece for the debate.
Yeah, the stakes here are not that high.
It was a karate chop across the nose. He went down in a heap. The Secret Service came running, and I saw my whole career flash before my eyes because I thought I had broken the nose of the candidate. But I agree with you, Murphy, on Burgum. I actually thought he had some affecting moments, and I think his reference to small town values and so on. I thought that, but he's just, you know.
What he needed was a Mike Murphy.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm an apostate, but it was like watching Babe Ruth that nobody ever handed him a bat until he was 45, kind of playing with one for 5 minutes, thinking, God, what this guy could have been. Anyway, it is what it is. It was Haley's night, and that's going to have an effect in the primary, I believe.
This is what I said at the beginning about just sort of not understanding the format and not being able to drive a larger message. He had those moments of authenticity in the first 15 seconds of the answer, and then you could see his eyes searching for, okay, how do I connect this to something else? How do I expand what I've just talked about to sort of go through, what are my 3 things on China? What, great thing on small town. Why? What's important about that? Bring that. He just, I think this was the case with Tim Scott. I don't think he did talking points. I think he just did bullet points, right?
Well, he was pulling chunks of his stump speech as if the big idea is to say God's green earth 3 times and you'll be the nominee. I know the potential Scott has too. I also know he has no backbone. I wrote a whole Substack about missing the alpha part of the equation, and he totally blew the opportunity, nor did he look well prepared. He didn't come there to make a point.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what the tragedy of that is for him. Is that this was I disagree with you guys. I actually think Trump, anything that sort of
muddles the field,
a muddle, is a win for Trump. And he didn't get damaged at all. And rather than clarity about who the principal challenger to him will be, I think there's just more of a muddle. His principal challenger, or the guy who entered the race just to be on the debate stage with Donald Trump, Chris Christie, who came in with great expectations as a debater, fizzled in this debate.
I agree with that.
I think for Trump, it was a good night.
Let's stop for a minute and listen to a word from one of our fine sponsors.
Murphy, you know this in politics. There are 2 sides to every story, but if you want to hire great talent for your business faster, there's just one way to do it. You need Indeed.
That's right, Gibbs. There are 2 sides, my side and the wrong side. But everybody can agree that Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire. And here's the key part, all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all, streamlining hiring with powerful tools that help you solve your problem. Find the match candidates you need.
With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches, most importantly, their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed Data US. Look, one of the things that we love, it makes hiring easy. As Mike said, it's all in one place. Candidates you invite to apply are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in search, according to US Indeed data. We get one step closer to the hire by immediately matching you with quality candidates.
You know, I'm lazy, so I like this because Indeed does the hard work for me. I mean, face it, you know, Gibbs, we mow through Yes Man around here like crazy, so we're always looking for quality people to work for us. Indeed speeds that process up, no wasted time. It's the only job site where you only pay for applications that meet your must-have requirements. It's a very powerful hiring platform, delivering 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to the all-knowing Talent Nest 2019 study. 3 million businesses use this thing, Gibbs. Our listeners should too.
Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/hacks. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/hacks.
Just go to Indeed.com/hacks and show your support for our show by saying you heard about it on this magnificent podcast. Indeed.com/hacks.
Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire?
You need Indeed.
You know, all of them were auditioning for the rest of the Republican Party to try and be the alpha person, as you say, Mike. Tim Scott failed. Ron DeSantis, who entered the race with great expectations, once again failed to live up to those expectations, even though he did better than he has. But he's still not the guy. You know, Nikki and now Nikki Haley did do well. I thought the thing that she did at first, and I don't know if we have this, there are a couple of clips that stuck out to me on Nikki Haley. One was she went after Republicans and Democrats on the debt issue.
Yep.
And I thought that was really smart, including Trump by name. She was the first one to name Trump.
Exactly.
And I thought that showed, you know.
And it was a clever sideways way to go at Trump, as opposed to the Christie dynamite vest, which does nothing for Christie. Do we have the clip of her
spending? Yeah, we do. Our crack producer,
do.
Hannah McDonald, just signaled to our crack engineer.
Secret Haley voter.
That clip number 3 is the one we're talking about.
Well, I don't care about polls. What I care about the fact is that no one is telling the American people the truth. The truth is that Biden didn't do this to us. Our Republicans did this to us, too. When they passed that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill, they left us with 90 million people on Medicaid, 42 million people on food stamps. No one has told you how to fix it. I'll tell you how to fix it. They need to stop the spending. They need to stop the borrowing. They need to eliminate the earmarks that the Republicans brought back in. And they need to make sure they understand these are taxpayer dollars. It's not their dollars. And while they're all saying this, you have Ron DeSantis, you've got Tim Scott, you've got Mike Pence. They all voted to raise the debt. And Donald Trump added $8 trillion to our debt.
That was her first intervention, big intervention, and it was very, very striking because she was separating herself out from the incumbent politics of Washington, which I thought was really good. And she
mentioned the T word, which was, other than Pence doing the Trump-Pence administration, that would have really driven Trump crazy not to hear his name for an hour. She also took another poke at Trump through a good prism, which is he's the most unpopular politician in America, which resonates with the party regulars who know the guy's almost certainly a stone cold loser, though again, Biden's in such trouble, who the hell knows? So I thought it was an adroit way to line her up as the winning alternative to Trump while hitting the conservative gong. And again, I'm not a fan. I think she's deeply cynical. She did the Faustian deal with Trump, but she played the most adroit Trump messaging last night.
She understood the moment. She understood the format. She understood how to get all of that into that 30 seconds. She started with a great line, which I mean, she used the T word to hit Trump before she said Trump, and that was truth, right? When she said, people aren't telling you the truth. That was Democrats, Joe Biden and others, and Republicans and Donald Trump. And then she went to hit everybody. It was a smart move. It was adroit.
She started with a phrase before that, which is always a winner, which is, I don't care about the polls.
Yep.
And then she said something that actually made her sound like she didn't.
Now, her pollster is running her campaign, I'll just add, for cosmic reality interjection. But it was, it was a well-done performance, though she needs a little less coffee. Slow her down a little.
She understood the format. She understood how to point herself out as being different, how to not just look at one person. I think that and she did this later on Ukraine in her answer and foreign policy, where she focused on one person, but I think smartly focused on, 3 or 4 of them. And it created among many moments of separation in that debate. I think that was interesting. And I don't know if this is getting ahead of ourselves, but Murphy, what does she do today to build off of that performance so that it isn't just this fleeting moment? Because I didn't think anybody was going to win the nomination last night. I didn't think anybody's going to lose it.
Her problem is right now the most popular candidate in the Republican Party in Iowa and New Hampshire is Tim Scott in terms of favorable, unfavorable. And he's done that with good appearances, positive personality, and a hell of a lot of television advertising. She has not been as competitive there. I don't think her ad here in New Hampshire is very good. She doesn't have as much money, cash on hand. But now there are a bunch of high-dollar people who thought, DeSantis can beat Trump. I'm with DeSantis. Then Tim Scott are looking at her. And just in the nick of time, because she, as of 2 days ago, didn't have the cash muscle or the money machine to give her a strong fourth quarter in Iowa and New Hampshire. My guess is she will now have that and really be able to get in the race. So that, to me, is the material thing that happened last night.
I agree with all that, but I think there's also I think, apropos to what I said earlier, the whole leaning into the kind of outsider, even though she touts her experience, but her experiences as a governor, as the UN ambassador, but that the idea that she's running against sort of the incumbent politics that everybody hates, I think was appealing, and I would continue to lean into that. Here's my question about her. I want to play the exchange she had with Vivek Ramaswamy on Ukraine, and on foreign policy.
Yeah. A win for Russia is a win for China. We have to know that. Ukraine is the first line of defense for us. And the problem that Vivek doesn't understand is he wants to hand Ukraine to Russia. He wants to let China eat Taiwan. He wants to go and stop funding Israel. You don't do that to friends. What you do instead is you have the backs of your friends. Ukraine is the front line of defense. Putin has said, once Russia takes Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. That's a world war. We're trying to prevent war. Look at what Putin did today. He killed Prigozhin. When I was at the UN, the Russian ambassador suddenly died. This guy is a murderer, and you are choosing a murderer over a pro-American country.
I think she was incredibly strong in that clip. I agree with her on the issue of Ukraine. Here's the thing. I think increasingly Republicans don't. We talked about how, the pole vaulting nature of politics, and when the bar gets raised, the bar gets raised. When you clear a bar, the bar gets raised. I think there is a chance that this thing, at the end of the day, becomes a vulnerability. That the increasingly isolationist mood of the party, the sense that we're spending way too much money over there and we should be spending it here at home. I hear from my neighbors in rural Michigan. I think that ultimately it could be threatening to Biden, but right now in a Republican primary, I think it could be a vulnerability for her.
I think you're both very right and wrong at the same time, which is no small accomplishment.
It's better than being all wrong.
So you're right. There's always this nativism and this isolationism strain in the party. But from her point of view, once She actually seems to have a compass on this, which is new for her, but I'll applaud it. 2, it gives her a distinction, because if you want to be a clownish isolationist, you've already got Trump. And what she's got to do is I keep going back to the two-way ballot I just saw in New Hampshire. I know it's not a two-way race, but 47 Trump, 42 Tim Scott. And that's less about Scott than not Trump, which he's filled in the best so far in the TV-driven, data. So she wants that contrast. I agree. It's not the slam dunk it was back in the good old days, but it's strong enough, and it's a contrast line. It also says adult versus amateur in the world, understanding geopolitics, that it's a good card for her to play, even though it's not the Grand Slam, but I do think it is a majority position. And so tactically and strategically, I think it works for her.
Yeah.
I was fascinated, Ron DeSantis' answer, and I think we've talked about this before. He comes across as just looking like a politician in an electorate that I think is looking for somebody who's not a politician. That's what Donald Trump became in 2016, using his sort of charisma to not be a politician. But, his answer wasn't, yes, we should do it. No, we shouldn't do it. It was to talk about the Europeans giving more money, and Haley kind of smacked him down to say, no,
right.
When you look at GDP and other things, Europe's quite frankly doing more than we are.
Yeah, she said 11 countries are doing more than we are.
It's one of those things where I think if you're watching this, you see somebody taking a side of like, let's not give any more money. We should use that on the southern border. You look at Nikki Haley, who's at a different side. And then this is where I think you have to have, and I'm sure the big money people are looking at this, Murphy, and watching and thinking, Ron's not the guy, because he's trying to figure out a middle way to have this answered, much like in the Mike Pence thing. They had to ask him the question 3 times before he said, oh, of course I've answered this. Yeah, Mike did the right thing. It's clear he doesn't really want to answer many of these questions. He wants to go into his note card.
Right. No, that was exactly. No, he was the most lawyerly candidate, which is not a magic rabbit in the GOP these days.
No.
But this point that you made, Gibbs, is related to the point that I made earlier, which is when he said what he said, she saw the opportunity and she went after a specific point in his answer and corrected him. And that is, I think, part of the test of candidates when they're running for president is under the pressure of a debate, when situations arise, how adroit are they at reacting to events and taking
using
advantage of them.
Yep.
She looked good doing it. So
we'll prepared, smart, talented, understood the moment.
And even beyond that, I totally agree. But she also looked like a winner, thinking about posting up with Biden. Generationally, she's different. She's the only female running. She looked like a winner, which is, again, why I get that tactically not a lot changed for Trump last night. But in the non-Trump path, the things are lining up now. And if she can run the table, big if, but if she can run the table from here, she could. There are going to be more debates. It's early, break through, and then the money will consolidate fast.
Well, one of the questions, Murphy, is this quality that, and we've talked about it before here. I felt this way when she did her town hall with CNN. The reason, except on the abortion issue, which I think she was more equivocal, she seemed resolute on her positions. If she, under the pressure of being elevated here, defaults to the sort of too cute by half answers.
Right, which historically she's always run to.
Right. That I think will be, that's the next test for her. Can she resist
totally
that?
Right. And also, she learned a lesson last night, though. She's sitting around today thinking, I've been out on the undercard starving to half-empty gyms, and it's not been working. But last night I had the best night of my campaign, and I threw a little Trump distance, and I'm still here. So it's okay to do that. So she might actually learn from this and lock down a little, which would help her, or she'll revert to Nikki the weather vane, and this little boomlet of hers is not going to last. I think you've identified the big question.
All right, hold that thought. We're going to take a short break, and now a word from our sponsors.
Murphy, we're not as young as we used to be. And nowadays, when I have a little bit of alcohol at night, I don't bounce back quite as quickly as I do as I used to the next day. So a lot of the time, I'd be the only person in the group not drinking, or I'd end up just skipping plans with friends altogether. That's until I found Z-Biotics.
Well, Gibbsy, I wouldn't know anything about that. I live a virtuous life. But if I were to overindulge once in a while, I can tell you, I'm not looking forward to that feeling afterward. I mean, we all have busy lives these days, and who wants to waste a day stuck on the couch because, well, it was the big victory party when my predictions turned out to be right about Trump, and you guys had to buy me a lot of drinks. So here's the good news for our listenership. It's hacks on tap. This isn't tea on tap. Z-Biotics is the answer we've all been looking for. Now tell me about it, Robert, because I'm going to need this stuff.
Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Mike, here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. Let's not dwell on that. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Z-Biotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. It's designed to work like your liver, but in your gut, where, Mike, let's be clear, you need it most. Just remember to drink Z-Biotics before drinking alcohol. Drink, of course, responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow.
The chemistry is fascinating. Gibbs, we actually got a real life, I think it was a tweet from a couple of guys who were having, let's just say, a very good time south of the border in one of the party towns. And they told us, as instructed, they drank a bottle of Z-Biotics, it's not huge, before they had any alcohol. They reported back they were amazed at how good they felt the next day.
Murphy, Labor Day weekend is, as you know, right around the corner. So make sure you stock up before the long weekend. Your friends and family will thank you. Give Z-Biotics a try for yourself. Go to zbiotics.com/hacks to get 15% off your first order when you use hacks at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied, Murphy, for any reason, and we know you're a grumpy dude, they'll refund your money, no questions asked.
Sounds like a fair deal to me. I'll drink to that responsibly.
Remember to head to zbiotics.com/hacks and use the code HACKS at checkout for 15% off.
Wow. Thank you, Z-Biotics, for sponsoring this episode.
So Pence, I agree with you guys as well. I had a feeling that Pence would do better in this debate than people anticipated because, first of all, he's spent 4 years mostly lowering expectations in his day-to-day performance, and the vice presidency generally diminishes you, and under Trump, even more so. But Pence did well in these vice presidential debates, you guys remember.
He's a decent communicator. It's just a lot of the product scares the hell out of the suburbs because he's a social conservative, and that's not a growth market outside the primary.
Well, he was all about Iowa last night.
Yep.
I mean, and
so is Scott.
Yeah, he's trying to energize on his own behalf the evangelicals who once were his base. Trump brought him in 2016 as his kind of beard with the evangelical community. And now Trump has stolen his base and he's trying to get it back. I don't know if that's possible, but at a minimum, what Pence achieved last night was he began to reclaim his own identity. He did not seem like a Trump acolyte on the stage last night. He did not seem like a guy, obviously at the beginning when he did the Trump-Pence administration stuff, I thought that didn't go over particularly. I may be wrong. Murphy, you translate into Republican for me, but that was too reminiscent, frankly.
Yeah, it was a push.
The old I was Trump's sideman kind of routine. But when he got into it, he looked like his own person.
Yeah, no, look, I thought he had a little presidential gravitas. He is a credentialed conservative. And the best movie made was with a little help from Brett Baer and Martha McCallum, he pushed them all to say he did the right thing. So he's not alone.
Yeah.
And, they all took his allegedly, from a strong MAGA point of view, traitorous position, which was good.
Yeah.
And he looked clear. He looked like an honest man.
Yeah. You know what drives me nuts? And I know it's probably necessary in Republican politics. Tim Scott did this. Yes, Pence did the right thing, and then immediately wheeled around and, orated on we have to end the weaponization of.
Yeah, he did it by
justice.
Weaponizing the issue. It's like, one thing I don't want is a tilted Justice Department, so I plan to tilt it.
Yeah, which is basically becomes safe harbor for all the Republicans.
Yeah,
who don't
it's
want
the
to
escape
defend.
plan, and that's the problem with Tim Scott. He is not ready for prime time, doesn't have a message strategy other than his bio, which he couldn't really get to because he needs a room to himself.
Yeah, he's all bio, no message.
It's tragic because, again, he, like Burgum, I think there's opportunity there, but his campaign peaked the day before that debate.
I was thinking, Gibbs, all day yesterday about if I were Tim Scott, how would I use this debate to convert bio into message? And, the reason that he's a likable person, but the reason that Republicans have embraced him to the extent they have is that he also is a living symbol for a party that has been denounced as racist.
Totally.
In his own telling, he's a symbol that, the U.S. is not the systemically racist country that, and all of that.
It's like he's sitting on rocket fuel, but instead he's screwing around with propellers and stuff. He doesn't understand that the optimism, this is a great country, my story, all that stuff is so powerful, but he hasn't distilled it to the next step.
I agree.
But it was such great positioning at the beginning. And then they made the dumb, it's not dumb. It's the rearview mirror theory of strategy, which is we've got to be President Huckabee or President Cruz or President Santorum and win the Iowa caucus. He tells donors, well, I'm going to win Iowa, somebody else is going to win New Hampshire, and then I'll win South Carolina. Well, who's the magic hobo who's going to win New Hampshire? Because if you give Trump a comeback there after beating him in Iowa, it's all over. And if you run the Christian campaign in Iowa, you kill yourself in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Ask President Santorum about that. So, it's frustrating because he, like Burgum, has powerful raw ingredients that are not being applied to the current problem. And unless you can beat Trump in Iowa and New Hampshire, race is going to be over. Trump will be nominated.
So many dreams shattered, Murphy. I'm feeling you, man.
I've seen the opportunity, and I am trying to save the conservative movement, but
that's hard work.
None of these cats are rising up to it except maybe Nikki, which, knowing what a cynic Nikki is a hard one for me, but I'll take it.
No, that's big of you because after everything you've said here about her, you're going to be
no. The problem is
right where you are right now.
Yeah,
with us.
Murphy's been up yelling at kids that aren't even on his lawn for 3 hours. Zach, so don't he's having a rolling therapy session.
Oh, you would be too if there was a once great conservative party you spent 30 years working for that's turned into the clown show we saw last night.
Yeah,
that would make anybody grumpy.
Totally agree on Tim Scott. I mean, it'd be interesting. And Murphy, we should duck into Iowa and see some of these guys and to see Haley
that'd be
too,
fun.
Because I wonder if he's doing any of what you guys just talked about out on the stump in these meetings. Because
he kills in the meetings. Believe me, I know all about this because he gets the room to himself. He gets the mic to himself. He's very good on his feet. Here are the two places that Tim Scott will kill that nobody's ever seen outside of Iowa and New Hampshire. You put him in a room full of big moderate Republican donors, he kills them. Yeah. I have a very experienced political friend who reported back on a San Francisco event, and he crushed a fairly hostile room, won them all over. And he's very good. He is very good on the events because that way he controls the timing. He can do the whole thing. There's a reason he's 65 over like 15 unfavorable in both states. Right. Better than anybody, much better than Trump. But he's not going to close the deal if he can't be an alpha and take charge of a debate like this and do a little what Nikki did, which is to line up his own identity.
No, totally agree. That's the thing. He gets to his bio and then there's nothing there. I want to talk about, though, I thought was the most
interesting. And the bio
interesting.
makes him want to hear the pitch. That's the tragedy of
right,
this, beyond the bio pitch.
I was fascinated and I thought the first time I noticed Haley in this debate was the discussion on the Dobbs decision and whether there would be a national 15-week ban or a national 6-week ban, because many of the people, Iowa has now a 6-week ban, Florida has a 6-week ban, North Dakota has a 6-week ban. But I thought, in terms of interesting discussion points that could live on, right, beyond sort of the next couple of days on YouTube, was a fascinating discussion to watch. The dog caught the car in the Dobbs decision, and the dog has no idea what to do with the car now, right? For 50 years chasing the car, caught the car and no clue what to do with it, right?
Well, the problem is the car is backing up over the dog.
Repeatedly. Sorry for those who like their dogs and listen to this show.
Yeah, send your angry letters to David Axelrod and Robert Gibbs, dog haters.
I love my dog.
I would say the octopus caught the car, and some of the arms want to catch it, and some are grabbing a tree trying not to catch it. And that's tearing the octopus apart, because politically it's a nightmare.
I'm trying to get my 8 arms around that answer, but anyway.
An episode of SpongeBob, but I thought that was fascinating because it looked like Nikki Haley was really calling out to suburban women, like, look, don't criminalize women, don't do this. I don't think she ever really landed on a 15-week or 6-week or even a national or leave it to the states.
No, she just landed on practicality. We don't have the votes.
Yeah, I think that's a bad answer.
Yeah, well, it's process.
Pence actually had a good moment there when he turned on her and he said consensus isn't leadership. This is a moral issue and so on.
Well, Pence is very fluid in the language of the pro-life movement because he's been professionally involved in that for 20 years. So it's hard to, challenge him on his turf there. In her position, like everything about her is very calculated, politically smart, but you're right. It didn't have, to a pro-life activist, Pence was singing the real tune. It's a moral civil rights movement.
Yeah, I thought that was the only off-key moment I thought for her. The art of doing well, and she largely pulled it off, is you may be making political calculations, but don't let people see the wheels turning.
Right.
And on that answer, you could kind of see the wheels turning. So can we just return to DeSantis for a second?
You're obsessed with DeSantis.
Somebody should.
Well, I am, only because he's sitting there in second place, Mike.
Is he in second place?
I don't think he really is. I think he's on his way to not second place.
I mean, is he done? You mentioned Scott's favorable, but DeSantis has the best favorable in Iowa according to that poll. I mean, he's better than Scott, better than I believe, but they're certainly comparable.
He has a higher fave, but also a higher unfave.
Yeah, and the ratio's bad and it's moving the wrong way. But go ahead.
It's not bad. It's like 3-1. It's not bad. The point is he done?
No, I think he's catalytic because I think if Scott's win Iowa with the Christian strategy is really what they stick with, he's got a big problem called DeSantis, who's going to give him a run. And I think Pence might be back in business. So you might have 3 contenders over a vote that I think may be smaller than it was before in Iowa.
Well, don't forget, Trump has half that vote in his pocket.
Yeah, Trump, I think, is most vulnerable there. But DeSantis is a factor, but is he the main alternative? If Nikki can keep doing what she's doing, and she can use the media spotlight she'll get now and the $20 million I think she'll get, in 60 days, I'm not sure he'll be where he is now, and he can't take any more decline. So I think it's a jump ball.
He's got the money to keep going. He didn't have to your point, Murphy, Nikki Haley needed a big night in order to replenish the campaign coffers to be able to have a decent campaign. He certainly has the money. I don't know. We haven't seen yet that he has the team.
But I agree. But the money is all in a super PAC that hates him.
Right. Exactly.
They've got Stalingrad at the campaign headquarters. They're living on horse meat. It's terrible.
Keep posting the strategy memos, the 400 pages of research, which, man, that was going to go down as one of the
I was hoping Christie would have the memo. 2 things. I wanted Christie to be the prop clown with a rubber chicken. I'm surprised he didn't take the direct mano thing on Trump. He would have been booed. Maybe he was afraid, but it would have been good TV. And second, page 42, Ron.
Yeah.
I mean,
who picked it up
was
Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy picked up the MSNBC line.
Yeah, he did.
Lumped poor Christie in with you 2 liberal commentators for MSNBC. It was interesting to me in the commentary afterwards. Jeff Zeleny said he spoke with the spoke with the DeSantis people, and they said they're going to hunker down and return to Iowa. And it sounded like they also knew that they hadn't achieved what they hoped to achieve.
To Murphy's point, this stuff moves all the time. And I think there's a real worry. I think you could make the case that he was in second, slipping to third right before last night started. I think Ramaswamy got a lot of airtime. I think Nikki Haley had a good night. And this in many ways was like the undercard, right? This was the semifinal to begin to see who at some point is going to get one-on-one with Donald Trump. And if you looked at that debate stage last night, you didn't know who those people were or where their status was prior to last night. If you just watched last night, you wouldn't look at Ron DeSantis and say, okay, that's the guy who's going to go, he's going to be the winner of the semifinal and be in the final against Donald Trump. You didn't think that, and you wouldn't see that. And I think, and to some degree too, I think what the outline that you just had, Axe, a stronger Haley, a kind of surging Ramaswamy, whatever you want to say, if you have 3 or 4 strong candidates, plus you have Trump taking 40%, Trump did end up winning well last night because you're basically taking 60%, dividing it up among 3 or 4 bigger candidates.
It took 48 minutes. I finally got you, Gibbs, where I needed you.
Yeah, but the election isn't tomorrow. It's not like, oh, it's a plurality. And let's just see if one of these plants can really grow. That's the question. I think the Nikki plant did well. I don't buy this Vivek surge thing, or I think he peaked and will be a niche player. He's the new Ben Carson. He's the new Alan Keyes. He's the new
Don't talk bad about Alan Keyes. I love that guy.
Yeah, we love Alan Keyes.
No, he's the up is the down and the down is the up.
Look, Vivek Ramaswamy is not going to be the nominee of the Republican Party, and I don't think
All right, let me write that down.
Anybody believes that. The question is, can he grab a share? And in grabbing share, listen, he
take it away from somebody who had consolidated against Trump.
Basically, he called Trump the greatest president of the 21st century on the stage last night. He's not doing any harm to Trump. He's a Trump wannabe. So if he grabs 15%, he's doing Trump a favor. And I think among younger voters and some of the cultural warrior crowd, he's going to grab some votes.
I think he might grab some votes, so I think he could have grabbed more. But who does R.C. Cola hurt more, Coke or 7-Up? See, I think he will pull some Trump. Some kooks who think the Trump kook show is a little bit worn out will find new, fresh kook. So I don't buy that he takes non-Trump votes. I think he'll get as many formerly Trump votes looking for something new. But let's find out. We got to throw it in the oven and cook it.
Does R.C. Cola still exist?
Yeah, ask Coke. They have a meeting every day. How do we screw those bastards? They're worse than Pepsi.
Nobody at Coke is worried about R.C. Cola, man.
Oh, no.
Nobody at Coke is worried
about
R.C. Cola.
If you've ever dealt with the Coca-Cola company, they worry about everybody. It's like Walmart. I did a gig for Walmart. You go into their executive offices, and they have this huge thing with the logos. They are all trying to destroy us. Axelrod's Corner Store, Costco. They put them, when you walk to your office, you have to look at it and shiver for a minute.
Murphy opens up a cool R.C. Cola every night when he watches the Milton Berle show.
An R.C. Cola and a moon pie sounds like a pretty damn good afternoon.
Actually, Ax, you should know better. I'm a Faygo man from Detroit, Michigan.
Okay, let's take a break right here for a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back.
The x-rays show that your puppy swallowed a penny.
Sparky, is that serious, Doctor?
No, but you can get serious savings at BJ's Gas. You can buy a gallon with that very penny once it reappears.
Ew.
I see another penny.
Keep looking.
You can get gas as low as 1 cent per gallon during BJ's Wholesale Club's gas event. For each fuel saver item you buy, you'll save 10 cents per gallon on your next fill up at BJ's Gas within 30 days of purchase. BJ's. Absurdly simple savings. $99 or 40 gallon maximum, whichever comes first. Go to bjs.com/gas for offer terms and a list of participating items. Please don't feed pennies to dogs.
If you've fallen out of love with your home, maybe you just need a refresh. Contact CertaPro Painters and we'll put the power of pro to work for you. That's CertaPro's power to transform living rooms and rejuvenate kitchens. The power to get the job done right, on time, and within your budget. Get that lovin' feeling back with the help of CertaPro Painters. Start your project at CertaPro.com. The power of pro. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated.
Here's my question for you guys. At 7 o'clock tonight, Donald Trump is going to stride into the Fulton County Jail. He is going to be arrested again. He is going to have a mugshot. And I have to tell you that the mugshots we've seen are pretty high quality. They must have brought in a special photographer for the conspirators who are accused in this Trump caper. But, and I bet you his mugshot will probably be on T-shirts by tomorrow morning. There'll be the Che T-shirts of the MAGA movement. What happens with him now? Does he continue to gain strength? Does it continue to be politically incorrect on the Republican side to attack him on any of that? And if there's no trial and no conviction before this primary process runs, can he be stopped? What are the odds of there being stopped?
Well, come on. My answer. One, Trump fatigue is growing. Two, I don't give a damn about national primary voter polls until after the first two contests. And three, the Trump situation is, in my view, becoming weaker, not stronger. The question is the slope of the decline, and can somebody make that into a reality here in New Hampshire or before this in Iowa?
I do know your answer because we've been hearing it for about a year. Yeah. But
as we've heard yours,
you keep saying that the Trump decline, that Trump is declining, and there's no, there aren't I know you're going to point to, New Hampshire.
Yeah. We're going to just disagree.
And,
let's say I'm using telepathy.
Well, and look, it could happen. A stop clock is right twice in a day, right? So you could be right about this, but I'm just waiting to see the evidence.
Right. Well, that's why we have primaries.
I think, this is why you're partly right about Trump last night, but not completely right? But
now we can both gang up on Gibbs, actually.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to unite it against me.
Screw you.
You're doing the DeSantis thing. You're halfway there and halfway not.
Wonder Twin Powers activated. No, I think if you look at what Trump's going to ultimately be stronger out of today, because one, the images are going to squelch anything that we are talking about and see in the debate once he gets arraigned and mugshotted.
And then it'll be rally around him again.
Yeah, and everybody on that stage talks about firing the FBI director, appointed by Trump, by the way. The worried about weaponizing the Department of Justice, and ends going to stride the embodiment of exactly those two things. And they get farther and farther away from displacing him. So I think the reason that Trump's going to end up today stronger than he was, because he's going to use, as he has for the past 6 months, the legal process to strengthen his political standing that, by the way, coming out of 2022 is perilous and weak. That's why Ron DeSantis thought people would make the case for him and that the law would make the case for him that Donald Trump was a loser. And because he was too afraid to say that Donald Trump was a loser. And that is gone out the window. You see the Iowa poll, people are more worried about the candidate, not worried about somebody that they can pick that can beat Joe Biden, because everybody thinks they can all beat Joe Biden. Donald Trump's in a really strong position. I agree with the sense of that. It may be at some point, Mike, that what you've been saying happens, but I don't feel like there's any real evidence that he's on some level of decline.
My view, I know we don't need to rehash the argument. You guys, I've heard it 1,000 times, and I'm contrarian, and Trump can definitely win. But there might have been a star born last night, which over time could grow into something real. We'll see.
There's no doubt that that's true.
It'll be fascinating to watch how the next 4 weeks goes, because I think the good candidates, this is true on election night and primaries. You see when somebody wins like Wisconsin and they get up on stage, they have their 2 minutes on national TV and they spend their time thanking a bunch of people nobody knows, or they use it to give like their certified stump speech about why they won. I want to see who takes last night and puts it into play. What does Nikki Haley do in addition to raising the money? How does she get out there? How does she keep doing this on the stump?
She's got the most aggressive road schedule of any of them in terms of events. She's been here like 60 times in New Hampshire. Nobody's seen her, because I can tell you can't find anybody here talking about this. You'll find more people talking about the Senate primary here between Chuck Morse and Kelly Ayotte and, others potentially.
But she's run for governor, right?
Well, yeah. It's Sununu's retiring, but believe me, I've been up to my neck in hacks and regular people here for a month, and I'm stunned at how they're just fatigued with it. And this is the professional voter world, and the Democrats are all cranky because the DNC put a stake in the state business, which is also both in Iowa and New Hampshire. I've said it before. I'll be super quick. There are a lot of bored Democrats who might play Republican here. It's quite easier to do. And in Iowa, they have nothing to do now.
She probably helped herself with them.
Yes.
Last night.
I don't think anybody drops out, but is
end of the year if you do.
Yeah. Okay.
Particularly Asa Hutchinson, who was on that stage, barely made it into the debate.
Right. The debate stage will be smaller in a month when they do this again because the polling requirements are going to go up.
Yeah, as they should.
And then I think some people may disappear. I will leave you with this thought. Someday, I'm hoping that it's a very long time from now, when Mike Murphy goes to his eternal rewards, his tombstone will read, "It's still early." That's what I believe.
No, the crowd will stand in adoring silence while former two-term President Nikki Haley said, we had our differences, but Mike got one thing really, really right. And then the jets will fly over and you guys will wipe tears from your eyes. I can see it all. All right, I have to take a non-Tesla American-made EV across this great country from New Hampshire to Los Angeles. People say it's impossible. Check me out on Substack to find out. Are we doing questions? Because I got to go.
No, we got to go.
All right.
We'll do it next week.
All right. On the way out, X, I'm going to leave you with the most important job of the podcast, which is our book club. Go to hacksontap.com/book club, and you can find some of the books that we recommend and many of our guests have, and we know we have one today. So let's hear about it.
So a buddy of ours from the Institute of Politics at the University of Chicago, Joel Ebert, has co-authored a book called Welcome to Capitol Hill, 50 Years of Scandal in Tennessee Politics. So for all your scandal buffs and political junkies, pick it up. It's out now, and I think you'll enjoy it. It's a real rollicking account, as I said on the book cover, squalid tales of larceny in high places that will make you howl.
So goodbye, everybody. I'll see you on the highway, gang. This was a fun one. Look forward to arguing about the same old crap again and again and again. Love you guys. We'll see you all later.
All right.
Let me just say, if you're driving across the country and see a presumed madman in an electric vehicle, wave to Mike Murphy, and please don't cut him off because he's tense.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
If you've fallen out of love with your home, maybe you just need a refresh. Contact CertaPro Painters and we'll put the power of pro to work for you. That's CertaPro's power to transform living rooms and rejuvenate kitchens. The power to get the job done right, on time, and within your budget. Get that lovin' feeling back with the help of CertaPro Painters. Start your project at CertaPro.com. The power of pro. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated.
Hosting a summer barbecue, a backyard movie night, a slip and slide party, serving up Aperol spritzes. Whatever you're hosting, don't do it without Drizzly, your go-to app for drink delivery. With Drizzly, you can shop local stores and compare prices on beer, wine, and spirits, then get them delivered to your door. Boom, hosting handled. Now, before you get back to folding napkins, download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com today. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations.